Is Goldman Sachs a buy or a sell? Let's figure out. First off, read this disclaimer carefully. Let's quickly look at some of the highlights here of the newsletter. There's been some big moves. There's been rocky times in the market recently, and the bearish ETFs have certainly been benefiting from that. Okay, let's first look at the website. Okay, this is Goldman Sachs website, the most famous investment bank in the world. Very well established brand. Here you see the seasonality of Goldman Sachs. This is the percentage of months in which it closed higher than it opened between 2001 and 2020. Very interestingly, you see here that October is literally the strongest month, and yeah, that is right around the corner. So that's definitively very interesting. Let's look at it against the S&P 500. Oops, the SPY. The benchmark. Pretty sure we will see some solid outperformance here, and we do 74% of the time. There is outperformance, so that's pretty darn interesting. Okay, let's now look at the charts. This is weekly data points, all the data we have. One of the first things that jumps at me is that you see that during bear markets, Goldman Sachs completely unravels. It is very sensitive here to bear markets. But beyond that, Goldman is very sensitive throughout, especially this bull market here, up and down in these major cycles. So you can see here that during the lead up to the financial crisis, Goldman was on a very clear uptrend. Now that is not the case anymore. You have these major cycle patterns. Let's see how consistent these cycle patterns are. That maybe reduce them a bit. I mean, you can see that there is definitively some major cycle patterns here, within which you can see that the trend is that within the major cycle patterns, they're usually two, like 1, 2, 1, 2, 1. Okay, this one is a bit messy, but based on the cycle patterns that we found here, that you could make the case that a rising cycle is developing, which would also fit with the seasonality we found here for October, which historically is quite strong. If you look here at the RSI, you can see that oversold levels are historically reliable buy levels. Hence, when it's oversold on the weekly RSI, the facts of the matter is that it usually is a good time to buy. When it comes to overbought levels, we do see that there is some reliability, but not as solidly reliable as the oversold levels. When we look at accumulation distribution line, well, let's look at that on the daily data points. The interesting thing here is that there is no correlation whatsoever with the S&P 500. Given that there's all kinds of chaos now in the S&P 500 and the major indexes, that's actually very good news. That's very good news that there is no correlation on the weeklies. So let's look at the daily data points. Okay, so bear in mind that the longer term you look, the bigger the picture is. On the daily data points, all of a sudden we have a strong positive correlation with S&P 500. So there's but historically long term, we have seen that the correlation can disconnect very substantially. And there could be a reversion to the mean as far as the correlation goes. Okay, so here are the daily data points. We can very clearly see this cyclical pattern for Goldman. We've seen a little bit of a push up, but then it's been stalling. You can see that there is this pincer, well, I guess it's called more of like, well, the correct name for this is called a pennant. I mean, it looks speculatively, interesting. It's interesting. It just is. It is speculative for sure, but I would lean a little bit bullish here. You see that it does pay a regular dividend. We will look at that soon. Okay, here the chart is glitching up a bit. Okay. Anyway, if we look here at the accumulation distribution line, let's go a bit back here. We do see some deterioration. I would like to see the bulls be a bit more aggressive during this consolidation phase. Unfortunately, they haven't been, but it's okay. Look here at RSI. there is some link, of course, between overbought and oversold levels and how the stock reacts, but the most obvious and like in your face connection we saw is definitively on the weekly data points. That was a very solid relationship, and also the cycle patterns were very clear on the weeklies. Okay, so let's go here to Finviz. Here you can see these trend lines they have shown. We are testing support as this lower trend line here. Options are available for sure. It's also shortable, a very liquid stock. I am a huge fan, of course, of looking at the average analyst price target, okay? Or the mean price target. Because the stock is currently trading for $202 and $48. The price target is $247.60. From our current level to the price target, that is actually an increase of 22%. That's very bullish. Very bullish indeed. If you go here to Sachs.com, they have a number 3 hold. C value score, that's decent value score. Degrowth F momentum. Industry is top 20%. That's also good. Financial, investment bank. 2.47% dividend. That's a good dividend. Market cap $69 billion US. Definitively not a small cap, but there is opportunities for future growth here. Yeah, so to sum up here my take on Goldman Sachs, okay? We have seen that Goldman has been underperforming many other stocks, but if we look at it vis-a-vis the financial sector, let's actually do that now. Let's look at the XLF, so we can get the fact that the financial sector ETF. Let's look at the seasonality. It does tend to outperform that ETF as well during October. So basically, we have looked at the seasonality. That is strong for Goldman, so it's bullish. That's a point for the bulls. We have looked at the charts. The charts quite clearly suggested that there could, looking at the cycle patterns, you could turn bullish. It's a bit speculatively bullish, but it is. We also found this pennant pattern here, which the bulls should be able to turn it to their advantage. That's also a bit of a feather in the cap of the bulls. You have the juicy dividend. You have the average analyst price target that is a whopping 22% above the current level. Sachs.com has a C value score. Industry top 20%. So basically, there's a bunch of evidence here in favor of a bullish take here on Goldman Sachs. I have a big but. The big but here is that because, as we have seen with the charts, looking at the long-term picture for Goldman Sachs, it moves in huge cycles. When there is a pullback in Goldman Sachs, okay, when the bears get to work, it is a big fall. Minus 43%. Here, as an example, also minus 35%. So you definitively do not want to fight the trend with this stock. You want to have a tight stop, protect your gains, and may the trend be with you.